Welcome and thank you again for joining me for another episode of Try on Thriving. Today, we're going to look at a Thrive plan that was submitted by a CEO. And we're just going to go and kind of dig deep into the responses that was put down here. Okay. Just to let you know, I'm Erica Kesse, a love force with mysterious wisdom, celebrating life. And I created the Thrive plan as a way to help us to move from our survivor mind into a thriving mind. How do you do that? You must be very aware of yourself and how conflict shows up for you, and then use an operating system, which means that you go into soothing yourself and coping. So then you can have people that are there for you, who support you, and can take ownership of your well-being with you. All right. So, a lot of CEOs, and I'll say, let me give you the percentage. 55% of CEOs are experiencing mental health concerns. And those same CEOs are leading teams. Those same CEOs are out here putting themselves out in their brand, their personal brands, and their business brands. And they need to or should do no harm and should show themselves as confident, sure, centered. And how do you do that? Have a Thrive plan. So I am just going to go and look at a Thrive plan that was submitted. And this is what you're going to get on Try on Thriving. You're going to get an interview from a CEO that's come on and that has completed the Thrive plan. And then you are going to get me to go through not the immediate ones that are coming to the show, but I have 500 Thrive plans that have been completed by scaling entrepreneurs and CEOs that I'm going to pull from and just look at it and review it. So first and foremost, on this particular Thrive plan that I have, the Truma Response that the person put down is fight. And I want to say that a lot of people, when they complete this Thrive plan, when on first time looking at this Thrive plan, people are feeling overwhelmed with even sitting down and doing this self-reflection. And so they want to complete it. And so they'll go ahead and mark fight. Fight is the number one response when I ask people, let's identify your trauma response. Now, let me tell you what a trauma response is. That's anytime that you feel overwhelmed, anytime that you are feeling unsure about the next steps you can take, anytime that something something comes through. It could be anything for anybody. I think a lot of people think of trauma as in like PTSD or something like war or something like that shows up, but it's not that. It's anything. It could be any transition that happens in your life can cause you to feel like you want to do a trauma response. We are constantly naturally going to our trauma responses based on what happened in our lives and how we were able to move to soothe ourselves. We go into our trauma response. Now, let me just talk through trauma responses really quick. So fight is when you aggressively push to complete or handle situations, even if it neglects yourself. Flight is when you're running from and ignoring or avoiding situations. Freeze is when you're overthinking, overanalyzing, and procrastinating. So you do not make any decisions. Flop is when you kind of fall out, you go lay down, you get into a pit of despair, you get into a depressed mood and unable to respond. And fawn is when you are apologizing a lot, you want to people please, and you attempt to be a peacemaker, to manage other people's emotions. So those are the trauma responses. These are what people naturally do if they are not doing any work for the on themselves, if they're not doing any self-care or any particular coping, they go into their trauma response. And the trauma response usually has some behaviors that you do in order to bring you out of it. And maybe those behaviors are not the best behaviors that you can do. So the goal of the Thrive Plan is to help you not go all the way to your trauma response, but to stop it in its tracks. How do you stop it in your tracks? Understand what your triggers are. What are the triggers? Triggers are circumstances that make you feel uncomfortable. They cause you physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual responses. All right. They feel disturbing to you, to your system. And so it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And so going back, this particular person said that they fight. And I just want to go more into this thing with fighting. Our society, and especially American culture, really are advocates for you to push through, get it done, persevere, go ahead, be resilient, do what you need to do in order to keep on moving, right? And everyone thinks that a lot of pressure towards something will allow you to have it. Well, that is actually not very good for us, in that when you put a lot of pressure on making something happen, it really does, you are neglecting yourself in the meantime. You may be helping other people, and going back to that whole helping thing, we can have a whole conversation about helping. We should be partnering with people instead of helping them. But anyway, fighting is actually an acceptable response. Yes, it's an acceptable response because you're still doing things, right? People start looking, and also fawning is a very acceptable response because, of course, people want you to please them. Now, the other ones, avoiding situations and freezing or flopping, people really start, being concerned about that particular one. But it's because it's so passive. All the people who are doing something, which are the fighters, things are still getting done, but they're neglecting themselves in the meantime. So basically chipping away at their own well-being every time that they choose to fight instead of going into their soothing. So how do you go into your soothing? First, you have to identify that you are triggered. What does that mean? So the person who completed this particular Thrive Plan said that they have headaches. Okay, that's physical. For mental, they have intrusive thoughts. They have negative self-talk. They have, they're self-critical, and they seal up and push away emotions. Now, are you seeing this? How they're a fighter, and with the fighting, they are then getting headaches, right? Because you notice that mentally they marked a lot of things. It's because this person is very much in their minds, right? They very much are all about thinking it through, and basically there's an attack on their minds when they are triggered, right? And so that attack on their mind makes them have a headache, right? And that's the physical response. And then let's go down to here. Yes, emotionally, they're tired, there's sadness, there's irritability, and there's mood swings. So, of course, if you are mentally tired from all that thinking and all that processing, you, of course, are tired. You feel that way emotionally, right? So you see how it all kind of plays together, because we are a whole self, right? And all these things are firing at the same time. And it's when the goal is to know that all this stuff is firing at the same time. And it is so confusing. It is so overwhelming. And the thing is, we have to make sure that we nip it in the bud immediately. Nip it in the bud with your coping skills instead of letting yourself do the normal thing that you would do. All right. And that's a natural thing that you would do. But when you are doing self work, you learn, I need to start living another way. I have to do something different because what I'm doing is not working. And then lastly, spiritually, they feel disconnected, detached, and then there's isolation. Now, I'm glad that they mentioned isolation because that's very much when people are in their heads and they're tired. They go lay down because they think it's a physical tired. They're not around people. And then sometimes they are not interacting with others to kind of hit up against them to know that they actually are wanting and needing and deserve to have people to take them out of their mind, and they need to get into their physical life. Other than a headache, it may be a way to cope for this particular CEO is to get out, do some exercising, rub their fingers together, which is a part of positive intelligence, wiggle their toes, get into their bodies and out of their minds, and that will help soothe them. So then also soothing that they do and coping that they do is they do gratitude, they do daydreaming, talking with a safe friend, self-reflection, being intentional, scheduling rest, saying no, setting limits on time, yoga, setting boundaries, exercise, resting, and listen to music. So they have a lot of good coping that they do, all right, that they marked on here. Now, one thing I must highlight on the Thrive Plan is, what is a coping skill? It's a self-loving behavior they're healthy, gentle, and kind. So these are activities to be practiced and mastered to use as soon as you sense the initial signs of the trigger. So this is a part of the operating system. As soon as you sense the initial signs of all those things that I said, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and before you get to the trauma response, do the things that are on the list that this person said: gratitude, daydreaming, talking to a safe friend, exercising, and do all these things until you are feeling centered. Because when we're fighters, we'll fight to go ahead and try to fix it, get to the solution. But your well-being is more important than anything that you have to do. And when you really get into the practice of this, you can rebound from a conflict fairly quickly when you get better at giving yourself what you deserve and need. All right. And then it allows you to be the best version of yourself for all the people that you influence. Now, I will say one thing. I'm going down to the last part of the Thrive Plan is your social support system. What is that? That is being connected is our lifeline and power. It is important for us to be interdependent. A lot of fighters are very independent and they are just doing it on their own and they're just pressuring it through. And even they'll have staff and they still won't delegate out to their staff and allow their staff to come in as a social support system person, right? So this particular person with their Thrive Plan put down one person, and it is a relative. So I would employ them and everyone to find individuals and have a social support system. What is a social support system? It has to be more than one person. You have to have, because you should not burden one person with all of the things that we're needing to have happen. It's better because that person could be going through themselves with their own, triggers and trauma and conflict, right? So you need to have some people around you. So something that I saw earlier, I saw this, and I don't know where it comes from, but I want to share with you is it was a guy talking about what his grandmother told him and how with the hand, right? The hand, you're the thumb of the hand, right? You can cover about 3 to 4 people, right? Okay, you can cover 3 to 4 people, but how many people can cover you? All right, but you need people to cover you as well as you covering people, right? So basically, we only need about 3 to 4 people that are our people, but you cannot have just one because that person is going to be over use. And then I hear all the time from people, oh, I don't want to burden them. So then you go, what you do, isolate according to this Thrive plan. And the thing is, it's not, it doesn't allow you to truly be the best version of yourself and to just give yourself love and honor and support if you are not willing to ask for the support, the connection, and proactively be intentional about individuals that could be your social support system people. Now, one thing I want to mention here is, what does a social support system person do? They are responsible for reminding you of your coping skills. So when you reach out to them because you're in distress and you're in conflict and you're having a hard time coping, and they're speaking to a safe friend is a way that you cope. What they do is say, okay, yes, and they hear you out, right? And they're quiet and hear you out, but then they bring you back to your coping. They'll say something like, have you done yoga today? Have you set some boundaries around that? Have you done any self-reflection on that? Can we just kind of process through? Well, this particular person actually is an overthinker. So it probably would be best to do some exercising, yoga, something for them physically. What about, this person likes to listen to music. So doing one of those things with that person. So they're responsible for reminding them of their coping, doing the coping with them in the moment because that person has come. Because the goal is to get us out of that. We don't need to keep our hands on the hot stove. We need to take our hands off of it and soothe. And that whole idea came from me being a positive intelligence coach. We talk about making sure we take our hand off the hot eye of the stove and not just sit and let that be, but go ahead and take our hands off and soothe ourselves. And then also that person is supposed to hold you accountable to healthy life-bringing behavior. So if you go to a person and when you're in conflict and they're there and they support you and they take you back to your coping, they should also check in with you for the next couple of days. And maybe even you all have a consistent time that you interact with each other, are intentional about interacting with each other to just check in on your well-being. So that's a social support system person. The Thrive Plan is my tool that I have used with, first it was counseling clients, and then as I have evolved into working a lot with scaling entrepreneurs and CEOs, I use this, and it allows them to have a thriving business because they are themselves are thriving and they have a system and plan around doing that. You all, thank you so much for tuning in today for Try on Thriving. If you have any questions or comments, I'll put the link to the Thrive Plan in the comments. But I'll just let you know right now, it's bit.ly, bit.ly/try on thriving. Isn't that easy? bit.ly, bit.ly/try on thriving. You can get your Thrive Plan today. It is totally free and it's for you. I just feel like everyone needs to have or should have a Thrive Plan. If we have a plan to do everything else in our lives, why not have a plan to thrive? So you all, I will talk to you all next time. And thank you so much for listening in on Try on Thriving.